rocket shotting to the upside. In just the past couple of minutes, Bitcoin had a massive green dildo candle here in the last 15 minutes to the upside, pumping from about 91.5 to, can you believe it, $93,000. Bitcoin making a colossal move. What do we say on this channel when we break above that red line, that daily 200 SMA? Some big momentum can come to the upside. We're not out of the woods yet, but wow, look at Bubbles on the day, screaming to the upside. Some of the hottest coins in the game taking back dominance in the space. We talked about Sui yesterday, baby. Sui ripping for 20% today. 20% for Sui to the upside. One of my bigger spot holdings, absolutely raking in the gains right now, squeezing up. It looks like it wants to crank into that top 10. Can it happen? I think it will for Sui to the upside. This has been an immaculate day, everyone. Let's crack open a cold one to celebrate, everybody. Let's crack open a cold one to celebrate on the day. For all my ladies and gentlemen out there, the cold ones, we got the strawberry kiwi today, the strawberry kiwi Capri Sun, ready to rip, ready to roll to the upside. Shout out to all you guys. I'm not advocating any kind of alcoholic beverage, I promise. This is just straight all natural. Fruit juice, that's what I'm talking about. Capri Sun, baby. Shout out to you guys. Make some of the hottest drinks in the game. The hottest drinks in the game. Now we're going to dive into Bitcoin. We're going to start where we do every single day, diving on into the king of all assets. And we have to look at it on the daily time frame. This is the biggest daily candle that we have had since this immaculate candle we had back here upon the announcement of the U.S. Strategic Reserve the day before the U.S.-Chinese tariff tensions came into play. And now that we're getting back above that daily 200 SMA, Bitcoin is honestly looking, zoom on out here, Bitcoin really can push to these higher levels and potentially test the all-time highs here in the coming weeks. It looks very, very likely. Are we out of the woods yet? Absolutely not. So, yes, this daily bullish divergence did kick us up to the upside and has now fulfilled, right? That daily bullish divergence. We had that swing down in price action here. The swing down in price action with the equal low on the RSI kicking us up, saying that we are likely to crack this high at 88.7. Before we cracked this low at about 74.5, and lo and behold, that did happen, and we got that violent rip to the upside. The daily 200 MA was cracked, and it looks like, let's not jinx it, everybody, it looks like in the next 2 hours until it's daily, and this 4-hour candle closes here, if we get these candle body closures, it looks like the bull run could be back on here for BTC, and it would catch everybody with their pants down. The altcoins are screaming to the upside like never before. I'll be honest, this is what it felt like. This is what it felt like at the beginning of the alt season of 2021. Are we there yet? We could be. We really could be. Let's dive on over into Bitcoin dominance and see what we're looking at. You guys got me hyped. We got that Capri Sun going, baby. We got that Capri Sun going. All right. So we took a quick glance here at Bitcoin. We'll go over in dominance in a second. There was the bearish sign I wanted to look over. So right now we are approaching a key area of resistance. I get that we've had a great day, and I get we had a lot of positive momentum in the market, but we have to acknowledge the macro. What am I talking about? Boys Crypto, what are you talking about? Well, let's get rid of this and look at this from a bearish perspective. If you're a bear, what are you looking at right here? Where are you looking to enter your short position? Let's dive on in and let's see. The first thing I see here on the chart is this high volume node sitting at about 96,200. Not only is it a high volume node, but this is an area of a previous that we're approaching right now. That support resistance flip. Support, and resistance, and we are currently testing resistance right now. If we could get a closure above this line sitting at about 92.6 in the next 2 hours, that would be insanely bullish for the Bitcoin price. But with that being said, until we get that candle body closure and the full candle body closure above this line, which won't happen until tomorrow, 24 hours from now, 26 hours from now, we gotta be a little, we can't go full port right now. We cannot. And another thing that I saw in Confluence, we are coming up to that. Where's this high volume node sit? We all know on this channel, we like to pull our Fibonacci's, baby. Our Fibonacci's from the swing high to the swing low. That high volume node is right on the bearish 618 retracement to the upside. You get that upside retracement. This is your likely area for that next lower high to come in before you go and you attack lower prices. Could that be happening here? The answer is yes. Yes. So what are we going to look at going on into this upcoming week? Because we could say, boys, crypto, this could happen in the next few days. It is very, very likely. If we do get that trade tension, the trade tensions start to nullify between the U.S. and China, deals are being made today. The stock market today, news, baby, on the Wall Street Journal, we have the Dow rallying. Investors hope for the tariff ease. I saw Trump posting on Truth Social saying, hey, we got deals with India, we have deals with Taiwan, we're getting deals with some of the bigger countries, the bigger economic powers here in the near term and today. So that is a really, really, really bullish for the markets, not just this traditional markets, but for crypto as well. And you can see that optimism has started to flood back into the market as gold starts to retrace from its all-time high of about $3,500 down it's about 5-6% from the all-time high, is it not? About 5% from the all-time high. This represents today people leaving gold and more safer assets and going a little bit more risk on. That does seem like what's happening on here in the market, baby. So Bitcoin, what we're looking at, we're looking to see if we could crack above the 618. That high volume node is our next level of resistance to get above. And we got some, what the good news is, we got some pumpage until we get there, baby. We get this candle body closure above the daily 200, and we're looking to go up and test this high volume node, very, very likely at about 96,000. And that pump could happen in the blink of an eye. We could get something like a moonshot candle, get a massive rejection, a lot of shorts come in. That can happen. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Before we go any further, I want to give a special shout out to each and every single one of you guys in the chat here. We got Wanda, Lily, April, Michaela, Sin Nasty Kid. Thank you for joining me here on your Tuesday, baby. On your Tuesday. Stocks, Bitcoin, everything rallying on this good news that the tariffs could potentially start subsiding here. You make trade deals, those tariffs go away, and that certainty returns to the market in full force. So that looks very, very good. And this wouldn't be out of the ordinary for Bitcoin. We did have a 618786 bullish retracement from the swing low to the swing high here. We had the 706 here, and if you took it from this reaction, you did have that 786 bounce. Could that be the bounce that we're looking for? Well, the bullish divergence said yes, and we did get that kick to the upside. With that being said, if this lower high is going to come in, if the lower high is going to come in at that bearish 618786, where can we look to? We could look down here into this high volume node cluster sitting between $62,000 and $72,000. I can't take that off the table right now. Why? Because we have not reclaimed this high volume node sitting about $96,000 in that 618 bearish retracement. I can see some selling pressure squeezing on in there, and there is going to be a battle between the bulls and the bears here, and macroeconomics is going to come into the play into this upcoming week, as we have Wednesday and Thursday coming in with the big economic news, right? Well, not really this week. We don't have a lot of big economic news this week. We do have PMI coming in tomorrow at 9:45. I kind of give that a little bit of a nothing burger. All these events that are happening this week are overshadowed by the tariffs getting resolved potentially, right? Are they resolved yet? No, but could they potentially be resolved? Yes, absolutely. We have the initial jobless claims coming in on Thursday. That's going to be another big hitter here in the markets coming in at 8:30. That's going to give us that glimpse of how are people doing with employment, and upon this resurgence of optimism, we could potentially see those numbers drop. Markets rally, Bitcoin responds very well, and honestly, it opens up the door for companies to start deploying capital in the risk on assets. If that happens, companies can start buying back in the Bitcoin if they sold, or the ETFs could start getting the inflows going back on. That would be really, really good to see. MicroStrategy continuing. I saw MicroStrategy and just made a ridiculous purchase for Bitcoin. Not MicroStrategy, baby. Strategy purchase. I saw them on X purchased a ridiculous amount of Bitcoin this week. They posted here, yeah, on the 21st, this was yesterday, they acquired another 6,556 Bitcoin for $84,000. Their average cost is 67 grand. And wow, look at that right off the bat. They just made a ridiculous amount of money off of that Bitcoin investment. $6,556 purchased by Strategy after they halted their purchases for about 2 weeks here back at the beginning of April. And I don't blame them. I would have been terrified if I was Michael Saylor getting that massive sell-off to the downside, and you're looking at potential liquidation of your company or margin calls coming into play. So that's very, very interesting. But Strategy back on board, buying more Bitcoin. If this company owns 2.5% of the entire Bitcoin supply now, government starting to get in, the United States looking to potentially purchase. That could be major macroeconomic catalyst for this asset. And we crack 100,000. I'm a full-fledged believer. If we crack 100,000, we get above that 618786 and we reclaim that high volume node, all-time highs are coming. All-time highs will come for Bitcoin. All-time highs will come fast. And we could see a massive rally for Bitcoin and altcoins to the upside based on that renewed optimism. So it's super awesome to see that Bitcoin and crypto is doing well. Look at this green across the board. How long has it been since we've seen this, baby? Suey, we talked about yesterday, one of the biggest winners on the day. It's hard to call out a loser. You have Pac G, getting sold off. Maybe that did better earlier on in the week. But man, look at all these winners today. There it is again, glaring in my face, trolling me, baby. Fartcoin, the biggest green bubble on there. Fartcoin, I'm telling you. Bitcoin runs to 200,000 this year, and we're going to see this thing, despite all the research, despite all the charting, despite everything, I have a little tweak of a feeling that this thing's just going to monumentally outperform my portfolio, and it's going to tilt me over. And, but Fartcoin, the new Bitcoin, as they say on X, apparently Fartcoin, the new Bitcoin, wow, Suey up 7% in the last hour. That is immaculate. Can't get the straw on these some of the times. All right, everybody, drop your coins into the chat. What altcoins you want to look at? We got green all over the board. I want to see them, everybody. Let's dive into the fun stuff. Let's dive into the alts, and let's find the strongest players in the game right now. Michaela B said Capri Sun should sponsor. Capri Sun should sponsor. Capri Sun, if you're watching, baby, I'm here. I love Capri Suns. I'll drink a Capri Sun every day. I'll drink Capri Suns instead of water, baby. That's how much I believe in Capri Sun. All right. Diving on into the chat. All right. Sin Nasty Kid, what's up, man? Hey, Michaela, what's going on? Sin Nasty Kid, Popcat coin. I forgot. Hey, Popcat. Popcat was one of the hottest memes earlier in the cycle. Popcat, baby, Popcat. Let's look at it on the perpetuals. Hey, you got a bag down here, man. That is awesome. So Popcat, I did see a lot of the bigger streamers, talking about it here, getting, that massive pump to the upside. Popcat, just like the rest of the memes, took that SmackDown versus Raw to the downside. You're above the high volume node right now, making a little bit of that double bottom. Do I think memes are going to revisit their all-time high? No, I do not. I think the meme cycle has came and went. I don't think Popcat's going to resurge to the highs. However, I think the relief rallies for these meme coins can be some of the strongest in the game. Well, why do I say that? After such a heavy sell-off, once you get renewed optimism in the market, baby, you can see some massive squeezes once you start playing 200 MA dominoes on these assets. Even if they're meme coins, it doesn't matter. You get renewed optimism, and memes, even though they're higher risk, they're still speculative assets that can absolutely rocket to the upside. Now, are we going to see something like this? No, I highly unlikely. If something happened like that, you'd have to get some kind of major bullish catalyst, something of that nature. You're not going to see, a return to their all-time highs that quickly, especially after these meme coins. A lot of the developers did sell off amongst this capitulation, and I don't blame them. They made a ridiculous amount of money. And, and there was a lack of buy pressure. And is that buy pressure going to return? We'll have to wait and see. With that being said, Popcat looking really, really good here, and it's going to be really, really hard for you guys to find something for me where I say it doesn't look good, baby, where it doesn't look good. Look at Bubbles getting this massive pop to the upside. Popcat up 28%. This candle is a monster to the upside, not just today. Over the past few days, Popcat rallying about 50% from just a few days ago. That is an immaculate move for Popcat from the bottom. So you can see this. If you get these meme coins at a premium, right? If you catch to the bottom, that's a 184% move from the bottom here for Popcat in the span of 2 weeks. If you got that on leverage, and this is something you can trade on perpetuals. How do I know that? Well, whenever we're looking at these, if it says perpetuals contract, which we like to look at here for the purposes of leverage, this is what you're purchasing on those exchanges. So Popcat making a monumental move. It's up 2x in the past 2 weeks. If you're on 3x leverage, that would 6x your money. If you're on 20x your leverage, that would 40x your money. So there is massive opportunity here in the meme coins, and I'm not advocating them for any way, shape, or form for spot, but these things are viable to trade. They are very, very viable to trade. And if you see a hot opportunity in the market, you know, you can definitely attack it with these meme coins. You know, you got a little bit of a shoulder, head right shoulder right there. And you did get that pop to the upside, retested the neckline. You got that shoulder, baby, the shoulder, inverted head. And you got that right shoulder to the upside. You broke through, retested the neckline, and now you are on your way to what looks like that target. And when they're slanted, it looks pretty juicy here to the upside. Popcat looking to go to about that 36 technical target region. Now, you have gotten a bit of buy pressure here for Popcat. Is there more rally to come? Well, you are sitting about 24 cents, and it's tough here, right? Because you just rallied 200. Woo! You just rallied 200% on this asset class to the upside, and now your high volume node sitting at about 24 cents. That if you fell down to 24 cents, which is your nearest level of support, that would be a 27% down draw and would liquidate anybody that took out a 4x leverage position from where we are right now. So my advice, not financial advice, entertainment advice, if you will, my advice here is if you're looking to get into a trade on Popcat, or honestly, I don't want to say people missed the boat. I don't want to say that. But the time to buy was in the fear, right? And now this hasn't updated yet, but we were just in the fear yesterday. We were just in the extreme fear. Historically, that has been a great time to accumulate some of your favorite assets, right? We're buying Sui down in our box of remembrance down here in total 3. Hopefully it's still here. It's been deleting. I don't know why. In our box of remembrance, and we are now exiting our box of remembrance once again. This is where the Boys Crypto family was averaging into these spot prices, baby. These spot prices down here, looking for a reversal to the upside for this total 3 for the all the altcoins, all crypto besides Bitcoin and Ethereum, the 2 biggest coins. This looks like it's ready to reverse. It really, really does. And that renewed optimism in the market feels really, really good right now. But I don't want to ride a high into a brick wall, if that makes sense. And that's what I'm looking at for BTC. Looking at that 618,786 retrace, I think there's more pumpage to come. But I think that $97,000 level is going to be a major, major area of contention here. So how would I trade Popcat if I was looking to get into a trade on any of these meme coins? You're going to start looking at the smaller time frames and trading the smaller time frame flags. You got a nice flag here that formed on Popcat that is breaking to the upside as you speak. The bulls are definitely in control here, looking to push higher for Popcat, potentially going to that 40-cent level throughout the night. That's the technical target of this bull flag. That's not me saying this. That's the bull flag saying this. And the technical target here, you do have a giant gap in the VRVP, but as the bulls and the bears play tug of war right here, the bulls won out to the upside, and you have that immaculate buying pressure. And this does have to do with Bitcoin ripping to the upside. Popcat, one of the hottest meme coins in the game this cycle, is likely to respond very positively to Bitcoin moving to the upside. Whew! Man. All right. Here we go, everybody. Here we go. Man, sorry. I want to sound wrong when I say this, but man, sucking on these things, the last bit of juice out of there is It's tough, man. It's tough, but work your lip muscles. That's what I'm saying. You know, the Sin Nasty kid, get your mind out of the gutter, brother. I know what you're thinking. All right, so here we go. Let's dive on into the chat. That's my analysis on PopCat right here. If I was going to look at trading this, I would look at the smaller time frames and wait for smaller flags to form in order to get into a juicy trade. That looks really, really good on the 1 minute right here. And oftentimes when you draw a flag on the 15 minute, you can see it on the 1 minute. You can see it on the 5 minute. It just gives you different perspectives. The stochastics are a little cooked right here. And you do have bearish divergence coming in right now. This isn't a time where I would be getting into a long right now. Even though the technical target does say you're coming out to about 40 cents, you do have this bearish divergence to swing up on price action here. To swing up on price action on the 15-minute time frame, while you have that swing down on the RSI, maybe a little bit of consolidation or another flag may form here in order to push us higher to that technical target of around 40 cents. That's what I'm seeing for PotCat as we go throughout the night, provided Bitcoin chills out. We did get a massive pump on Bitcoin, baby, and a little bit of a retracement is very, very natural. We just pumped from 91K to 93K in like 0.2 seconds. So that's something that, you know, you got to keep in mind for Bitcoin. The odds of retracement here are pretty high, or a flag or something. It's very unlikely that the charts just go like this. You know, it's not going to happen. There's going to be a little bit of selling pressure. There are still people that want to get out of this market. You got to keep that in mind. There are still people that want to exit this market. And, you know, can you blame them? You know, you're at a $93,000 Bitcoin, almost 100K. That's a good time, you know. I don't blame people for that. I don't blame people for taking profits, especially if you got in from down here. You know, you got in at a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 level. You're up 3x. You got to keep in mind that there are still people selling out here and taking short positions. So just something to keep in mind. But the big area, that $96,000, $97,000 region, can we get there? I think we will at least test that level in the coming week/2 weeks. We may get a little bit of sideways consolidation, maybe some consolidation. I think that's very likely as we come into the week, unless we get that trade war tension easing further. All right, diving on in. So we went on. Sin Nasty Kid said, "Hi, ladies. Hey, what's going on? Hey, Sin Nasty Kid, you got a wife, brother? Chill." All right, we got Fart Coins trolling me, Matt. Yeah, I know. Wanda wants to look at virtuals, man. Virtuals for Wanda. Let's dive into virtuals. I actually have not looked at virtuals in a good minute here. So virtuals. Wow. All right. So virtuals following everything else in the game. I will stand by what I said on virtuals. I think this asset is going to immaculately outperform this cycle. I think it is. For those of you who have not looked at this project, this was one of the hottest AI players in the game, and I think can do some massive damage to the upside. It has a limited supply. It has a great, very, very smart team behind it, and it's getting that nice rounded bottom here. I'm looking at the 4 hour, the daily, looking good. The stochastics are a little cooked right now, but looking to curve to the upside. The RSI says, yes, baby. Yes, we are going to move further to the upside. You know, honestly, virtuals, I have a little bit of spot in virtuals. If you're looking to get into that virtual spot, on an asset like this, you got to be willing to take that. It's still a higher risk asset. Where is virtual sitting on the total market cap? So sitting at about 124, about $434 million. If you want to get in on a 10x play or a 100x play, this is where you have to start looking. This is one of the hotter players in the AI space, which I believe is going to be one of the prime takeovers. This gets to a $44 billion market cap, which is possible, everybody, which is possible. Going on into the bull run, when these things run immaculately, we could see a multi-trillion-dollar crypto market, and to see things at 40 billion, we're going to have new players up here in the top 10. And it's crazy how you've seen these swap places. There have been a lot of play swaps here. Look at Toncoin. This was just sitting up at about 12. That's crazy. Hedera was up here. And, you know, Hyperliquid was up here. Litecoin was tickling in the top 10, like close to the top 10. So right now, we're seeing a little bit of redistribution of money. Pi Network making a little bit of a comeback there. That's actually crazy. Pepe, like the Uniswap used to be up close to the top 10. That's at 579 now. That's crazy. Uniswap used to trade at almost $50. So there is likely going to be new players that come up and contest with this top 20. We went over that 2017 screenshot not long ago here on the live, and we just went over. There were only about 4 coins that were left in the top 10 in the past, in the past since 2017, about 8 years. Could there be another resurgence? Solana has not been here forever. Solana was just not too long ago. Not too long ago for Solana back in 2023, this was a nothing burger. Solana back in 2023 had this, what was this at 148? So a 20th of the market cap was sitting at about $4 billion market cap. Back in 2023, probably less than that because there's been more Solana in the system. But that's what you're looking at. So if you're looking for a 10, 20, potentially 100, I'm not saying Virtual's going to 100x. But if you want to look for investments like that, things that I could think to do some major damage in the space, Virtual's protocol is something I would definitely take a look at in regards to your spot bag. And I think being at least a little diversified into AI is very smart coming into what could be the next industrial revolution, the AI going into this space. If you guys have never messed with AIXBT, Grok, ChatGPT, those things are making a lot of the tasks that humans used to do absolutely obsolete. I use ChatGPT for my YouTube descriptions, for my thumbnails. I use them for everything, for channel optimization, and it's been doing very, very well for me. That's all AI. I put in inputs, I talk to it, it communicates with me about exactly what I want. It can even make trading bots for you. It is crazy powerful what this AI stuff can do. And Virtuals, baby, Virtuals can look to massively change this space. Agents get developed on it. You need Virtuals to produce agents. It's a really, really cool ecosystem. I highly recommend checking it out. And again, I'm not advocating or saying financial advice to anybody, but I am saying this. Don't sleep on this asset. Look at this cracking above the 4-hour 200 SMA for the first time since Virtuals traded at $3.30. This is severe. This is big news. Big news for Virtuals. Look at this gap in the VRVP as quick as Virtuals fell and cataclysmically plummeted from over $5 a coin, $5.20 a coin down to where we are right now. These gaps in the VRVP are very large, and you could see these gaps get filled very quickly. That'd be a 74% run from current prices. If you got down in here at the lows, you're looking at some really, really juicy returns in a relatively short span of time. So Virtuals, I wouldn't sleep on it. That 21 coming for the 200. We know what happens when we cross the 200 MA. We start playing dominoes to the upside. And because of the severity of the dump, you're getting over the 6-hour. Where's the 8-hour? Because of the severity of the dump, these 200 MAs are going to be massively spaced out from each other. Look at the 8 sitting up here at about 75 cents. Then you go to the 12 and you go to the big boys. They're sitting up here at $1.20, right? The daily. I don't even know if there is a daily on Virtuals yet. There isn't because the project is so new. That's where speculative investing comes in, and I think Virtuals is going to do a massive, massive damage in this upcoming altcoin season that I think is potentially on the horizon. So that's my analysis of Virtuals, baby, of Virtuals. MH, what's going on? What's going on? I appreciate you being here. JJ, thanks for jumping on in the chat. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for sharing your time here with me on this Tuesday. We're going to give it to you straight. I'm never going to give it to you gay. That's what Jason Gasper says, man. That mess is so funny. Shout out to him, Jason Casper, another awesome trader here on YouTube, baby. All right, Sin Nasty Kid, House Coin could be the next 100x play. Hey, Sin Nasty Kid, I got to go with this. Look, it could be. It could be. I agree. Why? I looked at the white paper of this thing and it looks good. It looks very, very good. Capitalizing on the hype of the real estate market. And when there's a downturn, this is the asset that looks to be a hedge against a major housing market downturn. And it could do some numbers. It's limited supply. It has 650,000 in locked liquidity and a $10 million market cap. A 10x would bring it to 100 million. A billion dollar market cap, it would be a 100x on your investment. And honestly, if that crept up into here in the coin market cap, how many things have over a $1 billion market cap? A lot. You don't even need to crack into the top 70 coins to have a $1 billion market cap, baby. So Housecoin can definitely make that resurgence or that surge to the upside and potentially crack into the top 100. It's possible. It's definitely possible. To me, it's a little too early to say. But with that being said, no one's going to hop on a sure 100x. You got to get in at these prices if you're looking for Housecoin. If you think Housecoin's going to go to the move and you're not getting in now, even if this pumped, a 2x, that takes away your 100x possibility, right? Because you'll be paying 2x the premium as people who got in down here at that 1 cent level. It's the potential of Housecoin, I think, is massive. It really is massive. It's on Pump Swap right now, and, I don't know if we get it on TradingView, but you're looking to get some kind of consolidation going in here, baby. Some consolidation as buyers and sellers even out here. Let's see who wins over the long term, and you do have a little bit of a triangle forming here, symmetrical triangle, saying that, and, this would, what's crazy about the targets of this is it would take you back to zero if you did break to the downside. That's not what you want to see, but a break to the upside would take you on a monumental 200% gainer from where 169% gainer to the upside, and that could be just the beginning for Housecoin. I did take a little bit of a dive on that in my off time, and Housecoin looks good as a project overall. I'm not saying, and we've looked at projects on here that have been complete watches. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But if you want, that's the risk of getting into things that are on, Dex Screener right now, early on Solana, things that you can't get on Coinbase, because when they get released on those platforms, that's when the masses are going to come in. The idea behind 100xing anything is to get in before the masses. So you do I would do a little research on Housecoin. They have a really cool website. You could go on over here and see what they're all about. You could go in, view the pitch, the community. You can follow them on X, and they got, you got a lot of cool stuff that's going into this address. And we also did paste this on the AI safety score, baby, the contract address. You can type this into anti-rug, baby, and this got a very, very good score. I believe it was above 80, baby. Did we? 89% on the AI safety score. Looks good. The only thing that this is coming up, it says, hey, there's less than 10,000 wallets, but that's early. And there's the top 10 holders own over 15%. I do see that, but that's the top 10 holders holding 15%. You don't see this number one wallet address holding 50-60% of the supply. It's crazy. I wish we could get Dogecoin in here, baby, because there's 10 people that own 60% of the Dogecoin supply. Isn't that crazy? Not something that I want to be a part of, baby, despite the Dogecoin revolution. Dogecoin to $1. When do you think those guys are going to get out? That's crazy, right? 60% of the supply for those guys. But this looks good. The AI safety score looks really, really good. Has a little Google lens down there. That's interesting. Yeah, and hey, dive on into the white paper and see and do your own due diligence before making any kind of trade or investment, obviously, right? This isn't financial advice. But to me, if you're looking for a potential 100x, I couldn't agree with you more, Nasty Kid. This could be one. This could be one of the winners. That is true. All right, let's dive on in. Thank you, everybody, for being here. JJ wants to look at Ethereum. Wanda, of course, I'm glad that we took a look at virtuals. Thank you for putting that back on my radar. The 6666 on virtuals to the upside. It looks good. The shoulder head. Could this be the right shoulder? Very, very possible. I'd break it down on smaller time frames and just focus on the 200 MA dominoes, Wanda. Focus on the 200 MA dominoes. You're cracking above the 6. You break above the 6 and you can start using all these lower time frame 200 MAs as your shields on a long position. Would I get in right now? I would wait for candle body closures above the 6-hour 200 SMA and maybe some kind of consolidation. It's very, very difficult for me to hit the go button after you've seen 1, 2, 3 green 6-hour candles in a row. Could you get more? Absolutely. But you know, you can see what happens whenever you get a couple green candles in a row. Oftentimes some consolidation, right? Oftentimes some consolidation. So something you want to keep out there. And then on the other side of that, you got a couple green candles and sometimes it keeps running. It is what it is. But just, you know, just be careful. I think this 6-hour 200 SMA is going to be a big player here in the coming hours. You got about an hour and 24 minutes until that candle closes. Not only the 6-hour, it's going to be the 4-hour, the 6-hour, the 8-hour, and the daily candle, and the 12-hour? The 12-hour, baby? And the 12-hour going to close at the daily close. That is good. And the daily obviously closing, right? So those are going to be big candle body closures, and likely the market's going to go into a little bit of a frenzy tonight as Asia opens and realizes, holy crap, Bitcoin's pumping. Did we miss our opportunity? And either they're going to buy or they're going to try and keep the sell pressure up to halt this rally so that they could start getting in at some cheaper prices. We'll see how that goes, and we'll see the volume that Asia comes up with. And we'll also see, you have to keep in mind, right, as we're getting news of this stuff here in the United States, they're sleeping right now. The Asians are sleeping. Now the Asians are over there in Asia. Those guys are sleeping right now. So when they wake up, they're going to see this news, right? They slept during the market and they're about to wake up here. They sleep from like 9 to 5 and their normal market, 9 to 5 our time, right? 9 to 5. And then they start trading at about 10 o'clock at night, Eastern Standard Time. So that's what you're going to be looking at when it comes to the volume. There's people that are sleeping that have not seen this rally yet, and how they react is going to be the determination of whether we can push higher up into that $96,000 range, or we're going to get some consolidation, or there's a rejection and the Asian markets want to dump on us. So we'll see how that goes in the coming hours, Wanda. Woo! Got a lot of fluid going. You guys are talking about making me talk with passion here, baby. It feels so good to see bubbles just absolutely rocket shotting to the up. What is this? What? Oh, okay. I was like, I'm on the 100, 200. I was like, if this, look at this face right here. If this creeps into the top 100, what are we doing? Come on, what are we doing? So yeah. That's what I'm looking at here. Wow, Sui's still on a massive rampage. I have to look at Sui. Oh, you know what? Hey, I'm not gonna sleep on you, JJ. I got you, brother. I got you, or ma'am, or whoever, you know. Let's look at Ethereum. Ethereum. You know what? I gotta be honest. What a move for Ethereum. What a move for Ethereum. Even the past day, Ethereum did have a very substantial rally of about 8% today. Over the past 2 days, you know, from the low, Ethereum did gap up in the VRVP here, cycling through this low volume area of about 13% on the second biggest crypto that we have in our markets. That was a massive move. Was that the turnaround for Ethereum? I still see lower high, lower low, 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 and you could say, oh, that was the first, higher high right here. From a market analysis perspective, it's not enough data for me, and I have to look at this Fibonacci and be like, hey, I want to see, for Ethereum, I want to see us crack this high here for me to get a little bit of confidence. That 1956 level. I want to see this wick get cracked right here in order to change market structure, and then I'd be looking for something like this on Ethereum. Why do I say that, right, when I'm not talking about that for these other coins here? Ethereum has just been substantially weak, and I would be looking for this cup and handle. That first higher high, okay, market structure shifted. We made a higher high. Now I can look at getting in on the first, what I can assume then being the higher low. Where is that likely to come in here? On the Fibonacci retracement from the swing low to that swing high, wherever it does come in, back to the 618, that would be the golden area to get in on a macro swing long on on Ethereum if that opportunity does present itself. Why do I say if it presents itself? Because we have not, in my view, created a higher high here on the macro. And this is a 12-hour. Let's look at the daily. So here we go. Let's pull our Fibonacci like we've been pulling here on Ethereum over the past couple of weeks. And you're coming up to that 706. You got rejected right here. You got to get above this 618. And, you know, you did have this gap in the VRVP and did a great job of squeezing above it. But there's likely still sell orders up here. Why do I say that? Because of that massive high volume node that is sitting at about $1,900. That's not what we want to see. That's not an area where I'd feel very confident getting into Ethereum with the massive sell pressure that has been on this asset. And honestly, if I'm being bold in saying this, I don't know who's going to do it. You can say XRP and possibly XRP. I don't think Ethereum, unless Ethereum makes a serious turnaround from where it stands currently today, I think this cycle may be the cycle that Ethereum gets replaced as the number 2 altcoin. I will say that. I will put that out there in the air. I'm not sure. I can't be sure. It's too early to say. However, with the weakness in Ethereum, even comparatively to some of the altcoin bounces here, you know, Ethereum has lost a massive, over 60% of its value comparatively to a lot of the other altcoins. That is awful. And some of the altcoins getting a little bit of a bounce now. And yeah, you can say, oh, Virtuals is down 90%. Yeah, okay, those more speculative assets that were less, you know, that were worth, you know, the single digit billions. But when altcoin season starts, we're going to really see, if altcoin season starts, we're going to see a redistribution of money that we've never seen before. When that FOMO comes in, if you were brand new to crypto, what crypto would you be buying? That's the mindset you got to have. And a great way to do that is, you know, in my mind, is go to your friend and be like, hey, if I were to give you $10, you know, or $100, and you were going to put it into crypto, what would you buy? Right? And they would be like, why? Yeah, I don't know. What one's going to go up the most? Right? And they're going to ask you that. And it's not going to be Ethereum. Right? The odds of Ethereum doing a 10x are relatively low, especially after this massive capitulation to the downside. The infinite amount of Ethereum that is out there, and Vitalik Buterin hasn't said anything. He said, "Oh, we got some security updates coming." That's not innovation. That's not building. There's not building blocks behind that. You got to be scaling Ethereum in order to get investor interest up. And so far, a lot of people are leaving Ethereum for other chains, and there's, you know, Solana's outpacing it. Sui's outpacing it. I think there's going to be another layer 1 that does take the throne. I'm just speaking frankly right there. In my opinion, I think there's better investments in the market than Ethereum right now. With that being said, these could be some of the best prices for Ethereum. And I'm not being hypocritical. I own some Ethereum. I do own some Ethereum. It's on my ledger, and I have some in the retirement, baby. But I'm not selling it for others because I have a relatively low amount compared to some of my other altcoins. But this asset, I want to see some strength here. I need to see some kind of strength from Ethereum, and so far I'm not seeing it. It's not giving me that confidence here in the near term. That's my analysis on Ethereum. It's just my opinion on the market. Don't hate me. Don't hate me. Don't hate me. Look, we're below this key area. This served as support, and we flipped this into resistance. We flipped it into resistance. We couldn't get back above. This area down here served as support again. So you got to get above this high volume node at about $1,888 all the way up to $2,200. There's a lot of sell pressure here, in my opinion, and Ethereum could perform a miracle. We could get that squeeze to the upside like nobody's ever seen coming, and there could be massive FOMO for Ethereum. I can't be sure, right? I can't be sure. This is crypto, baby. Anything can happen. I just think there's stronger assets in the game. All right, diving on into the chat. Hey, I appreciate each and every single one of you guys being here, lighting up the chat with me today. Oh yeah, this is a great stream. I enjoy hanging out here with you guys every single night. Ethereum, that's how Ethereum's looking at, baby. That's what Ethereum's looking at. JJMH, eat this crap. Hey man, to each their own. Like, hey, opinions, man, opinions. But yeah, it's not looking like the strongest coin in the game right now, man. I'd say it's looking like the weakest coin in the game. Oh. All right. Sin has to get house coins, not a coin. You want to just sit and hold right now? You got to play the highs and the lows. Very fast moving coins. Yeah. Hey, that's true, man. If you're trading it, if you're going in and out, that is very, very true. Very, very true. All right. Let's dive on in. Sorry, guys, I got lung cancer. Not really. I don't have lung cancer. Shout out to anybody who has lung cancer. I'm sorry. That's not good. All right, here we go. H-bar for MH. I appreciate you diving on in. H-bar was one of the hot runners with XRP last cycle. And look at this. We had a Fibonacci that was pulled, getting that bounce out of the golden pocket. Look at the break back above. That is 618. This is the area. This is the area you want to look at after a coin runs massively to the upside. This is the area. Woo! This is the area where you're likely to get some buy pressure, and you did have that. Coupled with, let's see if we got any divergence in here. You didn't really have any divergence, that is true, but you did, you are getting that bounce out of this 618, 786. So I will say this, I want to see H-bar close above that daily 200 SMA. And comparatively to XRP, it's a little further. It did perform a deeper retrace than XRP, that's for sure. But both of these have been trading in tandem. With that being said, I think this is a hot project. I really do. A crack above the daily 200 MA would show strength. You have a giant gap here in the VRVP, low volume, suggesting that a lot of this sell pressure was due to people getting liquidated to the downside. And these could be potentially really, really good prices for H-bar, a coin that traded at 40 cents not too long ago, back here in January, believe it or not, less than 90 or about 90 days ago. Super cool, super cool. So could we get a reversal here for H-bar? I'd be looking at this daily 200 SMA, which is sitting at about 19.5 right now. 19.5, that's the level of crack above, and I think that for me, that would restore my confidence in H-bar. It was support until it wasn't. You fell back beneath, you weren't able to get above it, and you capitulated to the downside. Let's see if the bulls could step in here for H-bar and get that reversal through this gap in the VRVP to the upside, potentially coming up to test this high volume node here at about 29 cents. That does look very, very likely for H-bar. I love the project, veteran owned here in the great state of Texas. Yeehaw. Also, Texas creating the Bitcoin reserve, baby, got approved just a month ago or so. We're going to make it the biggest, baby. We're going to make it the biggest Bitcoin reserve that you ever seen here in the United States. It's going to be the biggest because we're Texas. We're the biggest. Our belt buckles are the biggest, and everything that we got is the biggest here in Texas. I just drove down the road the other day, and I saw the biggest truck that I ever seen in my life. It was lifted, jacked up Ford F-250 with the chrome rims. It was absolutely crazy. That's how we roll here in the state of Texas. So that's what I'm looking at, baby, for H-bar. This project also has some immaculate partnerships overseas. I did see that they did get a contract. They got a contract with some gem mining facilities, some jewels and things like that, tokenizing assets, also talking to some banks in Australia. Speculatively, right, this asset looks like it could be a major player in the real world asset game, the tokenization game, and potentially that new financial world order, right, the platform that XRP runs on. So that is definitely possible here for H-bar. Breaking above that 200 MA is key, and that's the level that I would be looking at, baby. That's the level I would be looking at, man. Sin Nasty Kid, thanks for dropping on in, man. That's my analysis on H-bar. Thank you, MH. Thank you, MH. Sin Nasty Kid wants to look at Solana. Solana was hanging. Solana, I want to tell you guys something gross, but I don't want to shy you guys away. I'm going to do it. All right. So Solana was looking like something that I've seen in my life. So my dog eats ropes. Like, I get her ropes, toys, right? And she throws them and she eats the ropes. She destroys them. It's a disaster. I'm thinking about just switching to all metal toys. My dog eats ropes, right? And when she poops in the yard, the rope comes out the other end. And occasionally there will be like a little strand of rope that's holding onto a turd on the back of her booty hole, right? And she'll be walking around. I'm like, oh man! And then you got to go over there, and I want to say you pull it out like the clown knows, like the clowns do when they're pulling that fabric out of their mouth. But that was what Solana was looking like around $100. That string with the turd is exactly the level that Solana was sitting on, baby. And, we had that support. We cracked that support level, a key macro support level, and the bulls stepped in off of this major bullish divergence that did form on the daily time frame. A lot of the altcoins did show this here, this daily bullish divergence. And why was I skeptical of it? I had to be skeptical on a lot of these altcoins because we had this huge daily bullish divergence here. And, same thing on all the altcoins. We had this massive bullish divergence here, and we broke to the downside. That is massively bearish, but the bulls did step in, and you're cracking above that high volume node here for Solana. And the reversal does seem imminent here for Solana. You're above the high volume node, sitting at about $143. The $143. The bullish divergence did play out, suggesting that you were going to crack 147 before you cracked $96. And lo and behold, you did crack that, with today getting up here to about 147.46. So Solana reversing to the upside with a lot of momentum. So something I am looking at here for Solana, you are coming up to a double top right here, or not a double top, but an area where sellers have stepped in before, right here. But you have a massive volume shelf beneath you and this giant gap in the VRVP. I see more upside to Solana. And you know what's cool about this gap in the VRVP? It takes you right here to that daily 200 SMA that is sitting at about $180. And that could have been it. That could have been the blip for Solana. And isn't it beautiful how crypto acts? Because if you would have gotten here down at the lows, down at $99, and you take it back to the 200 MA in a relatively short amount of time, that could be 83% on your return. And that's just on spot, baby. So, and don't ever think 83% return is like, oh, that's nothing. That is serious money for a lot of people, depending on what you're investing, and especially in spot. You're not going to see that in the stock market, and you're certainly not going to see it in the span of just a few weeks. So, or in that amount of time, or in the cycles that crypto has done in the past, right? Past results don't indicate future results. That is very true. But yeah, you're sitting above the high volume node here for Solana. And, it looks like Solana can make its resurgence. What are the levels that we're going to be watching out for? Well, that daily 200 MA sitting at about $180. That is very true. And we have to acknowledge that we are coming up to a key Fibonacci retracement. We are right there at the 0.618 retracement right here. For Solana, you do not want to see any rejection right here. The volume shelf here, though, is crazy. The fact that you got back above the point of control, that high volume, though, that sticks out the furthest, that is the point of control where the most amount of Solana has traded at about $144. And the bulls won. The bulls won the point of control. So I don't see how this doesn't continue to the upside to at least test the 200 MA or push this 786 at about $162. The market looks frothy. The market looks juicy. That's my analysis on Solana. The giant gap in the VRVP, you have a nice volume shelf beneath us, suggesting that there's still buy orders down there, and there's not a lot of proof. There's not any proof that there's sell orders above us, all the way up to that 200 MA mark, or at least up to about 168. And that, could sellers come in at the 786 and the 618? Absolutely. But according to the VRVP, doesn't look likely. Does not look likely. Woo! We're hyped up today, baby. We are hyped up today. Yeah, absolutely, April. Thank you. Thank you, JJ. Thank you, Sin Nasty Kid. Hey, I appreciate you guys diving on in with me. I appreciate you guys. You guys keep the streams alive. Your chats, being on in the chat. I love discussing with you guys. I love ideas, whether I share them with you or, I share a different opinion. I'm going to give it to you guys the way I see it. And if you guys see it differently in the comments, I welcome that, because I like other points of view as well. And I like looking at things from both the bullish and the bearish scenario as we go over these things. So that's what I'm looking at here for Solana. With that, I want to look at Bitcoin dominance. I have not looked at Bitcoin dominance today. I was like, I know I'm missing something. I was combing through the markets today, and I was like, I know I'm missing something. Let's look at Bitcoin dominance. And wow, what a rocket shot, right? We are on the daily time frame. It looks like Bitcoin dominance wants to come up here and test that 786. At about 66% for Bitcoin dominance. The 21's trending with price action here on the daily. Oh, there we go. The 21 is trending with price action. That is a massive bullish momentum here for Bitcoin dominance, likely to come up and test that 66%. Do we have that 66% level? Do we have to get an altcoin season? The answer is no. Do I think there's going to be an altcoin season? Until that 66% level is broken with a weekly candle close, I have to say that if alt season is coming, the time is right now. It is right now. It has to happen between this 64.5 and 66.5% level for Bitcoin dominance. Otherwise, we are likely to come up and test these highs at about 71%. That's 10% for Bitcoin dominance. A pump like that. That's comparatively how much is what's the market cap of Bitcoin right now? That'd be about $180 billion that gets sucked out of the altcoins. And if that happens, a lot of the altcoins will either just stay stagnant or take a little bit of a toppling as Bitcoin just steals the show and rips to the upside. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I have to keep it on my radar. And, there's a lot of things in the market right now that there's still uncertainty in the market. I get we had a great day. There's still massive uncertainty. If we get some kind of bad news, we could get bad news, like macroeconomic wise, we could see Bitcoin dump and push this up to that 66% level. I'm still looking for a rejection. I have to keep looking for a rejection until the 786 at about 66.5 gets violated with a weekly candle body close. Very, very important. Altcoin season, if it happens, will happen very, very quickly. This was in the span of 4 months, a 43% down draw to the downside. And look here, you did crack that prior high on the wick. Imagine how bullish this looked when this candle was fully green right here. We have to acknowledge that. And I'm not saying that a downturn like that's going to happen like tomorrow, right? But we have to keep it on our radar that this is still a macro and, defied weekly bearish divergence. I gotta say, that's a bullish sign, and that's not what we want to see for Bitcoin dominance if you are an altcoin holder, and I'm an altcoin holder, right? So you don't want to see this for Bitcoin dominance. You want to see this roll over to the downside, and we'll see if we get that here for Bitcoin dominance. Something to keep our eyes on as we go into the coming weeks, and you can even look at this on the daily, and, it's just a constant uptrend. You got to see that 21 crack to the downside. You do have a gap in the VRVP here, but you got a nice volume shelf. And this acts just like price action. The daily stochastics say there's more. There's daily bearish divergence now forming here for Bitcoin dominance, but honestly, this has formed time and time again in the past, and Bitcoin dominance just does not care. So Bitcoin dominance, we are speculating now, or I am speculating now, and you can do whatever you guys want. This is just for entertainment purposes, and these are my views on the market, baby. But for a turnaround here for Bitcoin dominance out of this inverted cup and handle to the downside, the gap through this VRVP, if alt season is going to start, I have to see it as now being the likely area. If we flip this upside down, how many times do we pull our Fibonacci's, baby, and we get a reversal out of this zone? It happens 9 times out of 10, and I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is and or at least hold on to the altcoins for right now until the 786 gets broken. In that case, you're looking at the 886 and a retest of these highs. You crack that, and man, Bitcoin could steal the show, and that could be a watch for altcoins. I got to keep that on my radar, and it can happen. It can happen. That's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin dominance, baby. Let's hop on over into the chat. Thank you guys for being here. I just saw myself on my phone. Am I whipping my neck around like a dinosaur? What in the world, boy? Oh my gosh. All right, I seen a guy on YouTube wearing an American flag thong bathing suit, and you were the first person I thought of. That man, hey, I'm flattered, brother. I'm flattered. I appreciate that. I think I would look good in that, man. I would look good in the American flag thong bathing suit. I might have to pitch that to the lady and see if she'll let me buy one of those on Amazon. Should I make that my profile picture on YouTube? That would be hot, man. That would be hot. All right, diving on in. MH wants to look at others. So for those of you who don't know what others is the measure, are we looking at, we'll look at others. If you want to look at others dominance, let me know, man. All right, so others represents all this is, if you're like an altcoin holder outside of the top 10, which I am as well, right? if you're an altcoin holder outside of the top 10, others is really good to look at because why? Well, it takes away the biggest coins in the altcoin sector, the top 10. So the biggest coin that affects others right now is Chainlink, right? Chainlink, isn't that crazy? You see Chainlink at number 11. So the biggest one right now, Chainlink, that's what affects this chart most massively. Like whenever we're looking at total 3, that's XRP and Tether being the number one coins that affect that chart. So others, a good sign for others is that we are cracking above that weekly 200 SMA. You start getting above that macro 200 SMA, and look what happened last time. We had that massive flush to the upside of about 123%. That was massive for others, and that happened in a very quick time period. I will say, look at this on the weekly. For those of you who don't know, on a couple of weeks, this was a month. This was a month for a 123% gain on the average coin outside of the top 10. That could be colossal for whatever coins that, whatever coins that you guys are. I just went through a little bit of 13-year-old puberty right there. I don't know if you guys heard that, but man, my uvula and my Adam's apple. All right. We get a little bit of a double bottom here out of others. That looks good. We're cracking above the weekly. And, we're playing 200 MA dominoes. You got above the 1, you got above the 3, you got above the 1, the 2. You came to the 3, you got above the 3. You retested as support. Now you got above the 4. You got above the 4. Where are we going to the 6? We do this on every asset, baby. We're getting about the 6-hour 200 SMA. Boom to the upside. May take a little bit for this 21 to curve up in the price action, so that's where I would speculate on a little bit of consolidation. But with the market being in a little bit of frothy right now, I wouldn't be surprised to see some further capitulation to the upside and this 21 really start to crank and go vertical here as it supports price action to the upside. The others, the total crypto outside of the top 10 looks really, really hot right now. And, you could get this, what I'd be really interested in? We cracked about the 6-hour 200 SMA, then we're likely to come to the 8 and then the 12 and then the daily, and that would be your 200 MA scaling to the upside. Look how high off this, this is another 15% move to the upside for the 12-hour 200 SMA, which is violently curving down. You get above the 12-hour 200 SMA. We haven't been above that since 328 billion. That's 50% above where we are right now, and that could be the reversal out of this semi cup and handle to the upside. You are in a little bit of a wedge here, now that I look at it, and I don't really look at others too much, I'll be honest with you guys, but you do have multiple touch points right here, and you have you have 1, 2, 3 right there, and this is a breakout. This is a breakout of a falling wedge right here. You have 1, 2, 3 touches, 4 touches, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touches, almost 6, 7 touches to the upside. This is a breakout for others here on the 12-hour time frame, on the macro time frame. These wedges, when they break up, they can break out very parabolically, supported by this gap. Thank you for dropping this on my radar, man. This only gives me more confidence in the altcoins here in the near term, as you have giant gaps here in the VRVP, and the measured move takes you all the way up here for a 68% move for the average altcoin. And there are going to be people that are like, no way, that's not possible. There's no way that's going to happen to my average altcoin. No way. I'm here to tell you that when the altcoins turn around, if this is a top for dominance, if it's the top for dominance, this could be the rally upon rallies. And we talked about getting into that box of remembrance, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to look back and we're going to remember, if we're sitting below that at 400 billion on the total 3, we're going to be like, well, hey, that was it. Boys Crypto called the reversal and he was wrong. But I'm calling that box of remembrance. I'm keeping that box of remembrance on the chart. And I'm going to keep it on there for years to come as this stream comes to life, baby. And we're going to look back at that as the early Boys Crypto community. We're going to be like, wow, that's where we were getting in. Whether we're higher or lower, that's where we were getting in. And we're going to make a box of remembrance. We're going to make another box of remembrance. When's our next box of remembrance going to be? It's going to be when I first start unloading my altcoins for Bitcoin. And the majority of my holdings are on Bitcoin. But I'm about 20-25% allocated to altcoins. that will start getting shifted into Bitcoin upon Bitcoin weakness on the macro going on into those higher time frame targets, which I believe can reach up to about $200,000 to $250,000 this cycle. I think it's very, very possible. I think there's a lot of things coming into the crypto space. This is still a new asset class. Less than 4% of the world owns crypto, or of America owns crypto, and you know, I'd say less than 25% can even talk about it or even knows what it is. Now I was at a family gathering the other day, and there were people asking me, what is Bitcoin? What is crypto? I don't really understand. And I'm happy to share that knowledge, but it just shows me that's like back in, you know, when the stock market, what's a stock? Like, what is a stock, or what is gold? What is so? And that beginning, when people start asking those questions, is oftentimes when the public, because those people who don't know anything about crypto, when they want to get in, when are they going to get in? Are they going to get in now? Were they in at 10 grand? No. Were they in at 100 grand? No. But those will be the people who start FOMOing in at the top around $250,000, fearing that they're going to miss out. And that's when the next bear market is going to start. So that's what I'm looking at here for others. Thanks for dropping that on my radar. This looks like, and it's crazy to say, one of the hottest charts in the game, and this is others, baby. Everything outside of the top 10. And so that brings me to this. So, Nasty Kid, I got you, brother. We'll take a look at Kaito. That brings me to this real quick. Others dominance. So this is a chart that's very interesting. Oh man, I don't even know when I drew this. Good night. This must have been forever ago. Yeah, a little bit of a penento there, but a little bit of a penento. Let's get rid of that, and let's look at this with fresh eyes. What does this measure? This measures others, outside the top 10 of crypto, how much of crypto that outside of the top 10 holds right now, sitting at about 7.88%. Isn't that crazy? The top 10 coins own 92% of all crypto, and Bitcoin being the majority of that. So right now, you're at a double bottom scenario right here. You bounce once and twice off this, this will be the third bounce. This will be the third bounce off of this level for others dominance. You're looking for a reversal here. The stochastics are reset. The RSI is sitting beneath fair value. This looks very, very good here. Do you have divergence? You know, you can say that this is divergence here. I'm not going to call it that. I'm going to wait for a little more price data here. But that bend right here, if we get that purple line to bend up, that would be bullish divergence here for others dominance, saying that you're likely to crack. That would be altcoin season right here, that you're likely to crack this high before you crack this low. And I got to say this, guys. If this is a turnaround, right? Even the total three keeps ripping the upside. Look at this. Look at this to the upside for total three. Even as about the stream, we were pulling back a little bit and we just started ripping. This could be the bottom. This could really realistically be the bottom. And I know it takes sack. I know it takes balls to start buying right now amongst the fear. You know, or for those of you who have bought in the last couple of weeks, I commend you. That took courage. That took a lot of guts. And to not sell if you're holding spot like myself, that's tough. But you're going to look back at these times, and I firmly and fully believe that you're going to be like, wow, I'm really glad I didn't let go of my coins at those cheap prices. That's the perspective that you're going to have when we're sitting much higher than where we are. This weekly bullish divergence with the RSI, the stochastic RSI reset, the momentum coming back up in the fair value out of oversold, which we've been since the beginning of February here. This looks really good for the others dominance. If you see reversal right here, you'll start seeing altcoin season again. And for those of you who have never been here for altcoin season, and I acknowledge that there are people here in this chat that in this stream that have never seen altcoins, rally. And when I say altcoins rally, you're going to see there's going to be a period of days where you're going to be like plus 20% of my altcoin, and then an additional 20% the next day, and then maybe minus 5%, and then an additional 40%, and then maybe minus 50%. It's going to get wild. It is going to get so hectic and wild with FOMO. You're not going to believe your eyes. So having a plan to exit on the way up, right? If you crack those highs, where are you getting out? Saying, hey, I'm going to get out at this dollar amount. I'm going to sell this amount of my bag here. I'm going to sell this amount of my bag here. Having that plan is the key to success in this market. Because you know what markets aren't going to do? They're not going to do this. They're not going to do this. Whoop. They're not going to do that. And of course it looks like that. Yeah, back here in 2017. Yeah, you could have the, yeah, okay, you'll have that. But what happened afterward? You had that massive rip down. So, you know, there were people in. Oh crap, I'm selling my bags. And people lost money back here in 2017. Isn't that crazy? So having that plan is very crucial to being successful in this market. Sin Nasty Kid wants to look at Kaito. Kaito, man, yeah, let's dive on over. Oh, you know what? We don't need to dive on over anymore, baby. We don't need to dive on over anymore, do we? Kaito on their perpetuals on Binance, baby. Binance listed Kaito a while back, didn't it? Let's see, on the daily. Yeah, not too long ago, back here on, you know, late February. Yeah. All right, so Kaito. Kaito looking to play 200 MA dominoes to the upside. What I love to see for Kaito is this right here. This massive gap from about 95 cents to $1.33. It's a giant gap in the VRVP here. You do have a little bit of gap. You're gapping up right now, looking to come to that 94-cent level. You could get above that, which would be, you know, in confluence with that 4-hour 200 SMA sitting here at about 92 cents because it's going to trend down a little bit while you get that high volume node. You're gapping up as we speak. You know, the stochastics are a little toasted, but, you know, you still don't have bearish divergence here on your RSI. That's very, let me zoom on in here. I'm sorry, man. You still don't have bearish divergence here according to the RSI. That's a good sign. If this RSI can tilt, that's when you can start, you're not, that's a sign of a healthy rally, man. You're not forming bearish divergence. The RSI, stochastic RSI was reset as you trended sideways and you got that pump a lump to the upside. You're looking to come and test this 4-hour and you're playing 200 MA dominoes here. You just got above the 1, the 2, or you had the 3 and you rejected off the 3. So right now you could speculate that, hey, it's likely that I'm going to ping pong in between the 2 and the 3-hour 200 SMA. I would wait for a 3-hour candle closure above the 200 SMA. You're likely to get some consolidation. How often do you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 3-hour green candles in a row? Very unlikely for the red side and the green side, right? You don't see that very, very often on any asset class. So I would speculate on this. Looking at the smaller time frames, I would wait and I would look for some kind of consolidation before jumping on into this. Whether that be in the form of a flag, or you crack this high, change market structure, which you could argue you already did, man. Kaito looks good. You could argue that it already did. I would wait on the macro. You're looking to come and test this 4-hour 200 SMA, and that's going to be likely your line in the sand. You crack above that 4-hour 200 SMA, man. Look at this giant gap you have here in the VRVP, all the way back up to $1.30. You're looking at almost a 70. Wouldn't that be a 70% run from where you're at? Yeah, 60% run from where you're at right now to test this high volume node, setting up here at about $1.32. And, you know, this is a 4-hour time frame, right? This wasn't that long ago. Early April, 3 weeks ago, you were sitting up at these prices here at $1.12. Upon the resurgence of crypto, and I've said this about Kaito before, when altcoin season starts, I think this could be a major player in the game. The internet of crypto, Kaito, baby, a very, very cool asset. It has AI. It goes into Web3 development, or not Web3 development. It goes into helping you sort out all the crap from your Google searches when you're searching crypto. Altcoin season starts. You know what picks back up? Google searches. You know what sticks out here in the crypto community? Kaito. Why? Because the AI helps you filter things out that Google will not. Google will have tons of ads and will FUD things to people if Kaito cannot do that. And that gets just a sliver of percentage from Google when it comes to crypto search volume. That could be the monumental move to the upside for Kaito that you'll be waiting on, man. And that does say it's very, very likely with the giant gap in the VRVP here. Look at this. You don't have a single buy order right here. On this VRVP right here, this was all liquidations, and that level has not been tested. Very unlikely that that goes without being tested, saying that you're likely to go to the upside. Something that's cool that I like to do is flip things on upside down, baby. Does this not look like we're rolling over a little bit? You crack that low, that's a change in market structure. You know, that's a change in market structure. You crack that high, you could look at getting in on a beautiful cup and handle, which will be forming here on the 4-hour time frame. You get that cup, even if you get up here and you get rejected at the 4-hour 200 SMA, you can speculate on that candle. Then why? Because we have that higher high. Where's the next likely area that you could get in for a long? On the first higher low, because market structure will have changed. You make that higher high, the first higher low coming out at the 618, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but this is how oftentimes reversals happen. That would also lead to a shoulder, head, right shoulder to the upside for a Kaito. That could be the reversal you're looking for, man. That cup reversal, you know, coming up here to the high volume node, getting a little bit of a rejection, then coming back down to a 618 area, an area where a high volume node can present itself on a nice consolidation to the downside, maybe some kind of downward sloping flag. That would look very, very good to me for the reversal for Kaito. I would need a little bit more data, man, but upon altcoin season potentially resurging, yeah, this would be something that I would be very, very interested in taking along, given that opportunity, that cup and handle opportunity. That's where I'd be looking along Kaito, baby. So, Sin Nasty Kid, that's what I'm looking at for Kaito, man. Thanks for dropping that on our radar. I appreciate you, brother, being in here every single day with me, man. You're absolutely awesome. But that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking at. So, you know, and it's the market in general is saying, let's take a quick look at the S&P and the NASDAQ real quick. Let's look at the NQ. I just like looking at the NQ because it gives us a kind of overall. I know we got a little bit of a, wow. We did get a little bit of a, wow. Okay, we did get a rally today. We did. All right. The NASDAQ gapping up here. And isn't that crazy that this is after hours? We are gapping up. Is this not after hours? Yeah, it is. Whoop. Tuesday, Wednesday. After hours trading, we are trading up on the NASDAQ, getting that massive pump after hours. These gaps love to be filled. They love it. But so do these back here. Look at these gaps that we have that have not been, that one was filled. This one was not, right? All right, what? No, it wasn't. We do have a little bit of space here, right, in that gap. So we could get a squeeze to the upside here throughout the night and then potentially fill this gap in the morning. The gap's not massive, but it does say that we could come down here to 18.5 again. You know, and that would coincide really, really well with the overbought stochastics. But the RSI is saying, man, we're going on a trip. And, you know, despite the technical indicators, and I very rarely say this, despite the technical indicators, I will say this. If the trade war ceases, if we get deals from China and the trade war ceases, you could see a rally in the NQ and the S&P like you've never seen before. It'll drop your socks off. The rally on the S&P and the NASDAQ can be monumental. And if that happens, risk on assets will go like crazy and gold will have likely topped out for the near term. If the trade war gets resolved, gold will struggle. Why? Because people aren't uncertain anymore. People will be like, yeah, absolutely, the trade war is over. We're back on bull mode. And this was just another one of those big stock market corrections, you know, from the high to the low. Isn't that crazy? A 25% correction for the NQ, teetering on bear market territory. You did crack that low. You know, and if the NQ does break back above that daily 200 SMA, we talked about it. We break below the 200 SMA on the daily, you retest it. If you cannot break back above the daily 200 SMA and get a full candle body closure to the depths, and you got that on the NQ, you got that on the S&P, and you got that for almost every major risk on asset class. And this is just a collection of stocks, baby. The S&P completely different, but really is mirrored. It mirrors the same exact thing. Let's look at the E-mini futures here on the S&P. Also gapping up here on the daily, the 4-hour gapping up. Man, this looks like we could get that reversal. You start playing 200 MA dominoes. You know what that means. You know what that means. Why did I do that? You know what that means. You know what that means. I didn't even know I could make a voice that high. I'm not even going to lie to you guys. But yes, and you do have this clear downward sloping resistance line. You touched it once, twice, 3 times. And is this the 4th touch? Or are we going to smash through this, crack above the daily 200 SMA, and go on the rally upon rallies for the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ as potentially rate cuts coming in the future as well? Trade war getting settled. Rate cuts coming in the future, potentially coming by the, by June, potentially, according to Fed Chair Jerome Powell, could happen. And is the worst priced in? I think so. what worse could happen? Anybody in the chat could tell me what else could happen right now that would be worse than the uncertainty in the market right now? What could happen? I don't know. I couldn't name anything. A war between like Russia and China, or between us and Russia and China. What else could happen besides a COVID-like event? What else? We already got the bad news on tariffs. Jerome Powell came out and was, a little bit dovish, which was good. What else could happen? We could get some massive unemployment numbers. That could happen. But if the trade war gets resolved, I would argue that would trump that. Yeah, play on words, Trump, right? But yeah, that's what I'm looking at. So, just speculating right there, a little off the charts. But that's what I'm looking at. Sin Nasty Kid, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, man. Hey, yeah, MH, I appreciate you putting a quarter of back in the Kaito profit, back in. Hey, that's smart, Sin Nasty Kid. A quarter, not bad here, man. Not bad here, in my opinion. And if you do come lower, that gives you opportunity to invest more capital, right? You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Well, arguably, a lot of my eggs are in the Bitcoin basket, baby. So I'm really riding on that. I'm really riding on Bitcoin, man. I really am. Not necessarily here in the near term, but over the course. I got my retirement in Bitcoin. So of course I'm riding on it. Man, I just can't stop looking at, wow, Sui ripped to 274. Wow, just in the last hour. That's crazy to me. But that's what I'm looking at as far as the overall market goes. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys sticking it here with me on this Tuesday night. I will be back at it tomorrow, bringing you the hottest setups in the game. Let's see if we can get the Asian market to pump us to oblivion, baby, up to that $96,000 level. We're going to take it one step at a time. That high volume node, the 618786 retrace level, is the next area that Bitcoin does need to take control of in order to see continued further price action to the upside. Isn't it nice to see above $90,000 again? Who would have thought we'd seen it today? It wasn't me, baby. It wasn't me. Waking up this morning, I did not think I'd be staring at a $93,000 Bitcoin, but here we are, and the market is loving it. Thank you, each and every one of you, for joining me tonight. I appreciate you, Sin Nasty Kid, Smoking McPherson. Hey, I appreciate you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow night on the live, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, much love, everyone. A great pumpage day in the market. Let's see what we can squeeze out. Keep up to date with me on Boys Crypto 102 on X. Much love, everybody. Thank you for spending your time with me today. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, Boys Crypto is out, baby. We are out. Much love, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Now, oh, my sign's not on. I forgot about that. But enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night. Much love, everybody.